I don't know how I got here. I like to say that I'm an unremarkable person that's had a remarkable life. Growing up in the South, at that time, it was the segregated South. Right? And so I grew up during a time where they were integrating schools. So you imagine, here's this young Black boy growing up in the South, now being implanted into desegregated schools, I should say. How it shaped me, it taught me that I have to look past what a person looks like, and I have to look at what a person is. And what that did for me is it made the world a more friendlier place to me. I grew up in the projects, and as most kids, I didn't realize I was in the projects until I got older. My mother was a very prideful person and instilled in us a great sense of pride of who we were. I remember she would make us get up on Saturday morning and go and pick up trash in our neighborhood. And I would complain about it because I always thought it was someone else's job, the city's job, to do that. But she would say, no, we live here and it's our job to take care of our own community. And that kind of community has stuck with me. My mother had 8 children. That's a lot of people to keep up with. And we had one rule, and that is don't work against her, always work for her. And so that's what shaped my life, and that's the kind of thing I passed down to even my own kids. My dad was the hardest working man I know, and that includes myself. My dad had a 9th grade education, so he was a laborer, but he could do anything. He could build anything. He had a mind for business, but he always worked hard. And you can imagine back in those times where you're working to feed and clothe and house 8 children. That's where we got that from. When I joined the military, I had no career vision. I was going to go in for 4 years and call it good. I found myself entrenched in the relationships that you build. You have your family, and then you have your extended family, which is the military men and women you serve with. There was a maverick called Terry Shepard, and Terry was a enlisted person who had joined the Navy and became a captain. I was complaining to him one day about, credit and not getting any credit. And I can remember him sitting to me, and he looked at me and he said, listen, do you need the credit? And I said, no. He said, well, maybe the other people need the credit. Is it okay for them to have the credit? And I said, yeah. And that moment taught me something. That moment taught me it was about the deed that you do, not the credits that you get. And so that was life-changing for me as an adult. And how it's formed me is that, loyalty is a crucial component, when you're serving in the military. Oftentimes people think we're serving a country, but we're really serving each other. Our mission is to go out there, do our mission, and bring everybody back home. It sticks with me today. Even in my business, I am really loyal to the people who call themselves DeNOVians as a part of my company. And then after that, I retired and went to work for British Aerospace, doing really program management and director kind of work. And then I got the entrepreneurial bug. I wanted to create a company, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted it to be. And so, like most Americans who start an entrepreneurship, a new company, I had a perfectly good job, and I quit that job in 2009, not knowing we were in a recession. So right after doing that, I was in it. And my wife, who supported me along the way, we just stayed in the grind and we never gave up. So we went about 1.5 years without no work, but we stayed at it. And I think that's the one thing I want people to realize is that when you start a company, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to have 2 things. You have to have grit and you have to have gratitude. Grit to get through those hard times, and gratitude so that those small victories are worthwhile for you. I often tell people, we build software and we build AI models and we build systems. That's great. That's the work. But what we really do is we build families. It gives me a great sense of pride to see people come to the company and they're young people and they don't have a new car and they don't have a new home. And then to see them gain prosperity through that job. And now I have their kids' pictures on my desk. I have that new home purchase on my desk. I take the most pride in knowing that we're growing families in our company. Defense is what we do, but growing family is our mission. The most crucial thing that we give is about time. We work with, my members, we all work with the Junior Achievement Organization to kind of help mentor kids. We go and we plant flowers at the VA. We build bikes for, underserved communities. Those are the kind of things when you reach out to those communities, you're doing more than just providing a service. What you're doing is you're connecting with people and showing them, hey, this is the possibility for me. Many of the kids that we meet, they have no idea what aerospace and defense is or engineering is. And so perhaps we're seeding with them a potential to be an engineer in the future just by having conversations with our employees and with myself. I think there's a lot of things going on in the state of Colorado right now. Obviously most businesses are still recovering from COVID. If you can imagine, a train going 100 miles an hour and someone slamming the brakes on it, that's what happened to the business community. And so when that happened, we had one priority, and that was how can we take care of the people that we had in our company. It wasn't about growing, it was about taking care of people. And that process really lasted from like 2020 all the way through 2023. And so last year was that first year where businesses are starting to look at, now how do we reinvest in Colorado? How do we tap into that workforce? When you think about it, that a third of the people in this state are not a part of a growing economy here in the state. How do we use these certificate programs to bring in more people who don't have a 4-year degree or even a 2-year degree? And until we figure out a way to tap into the resources of our entire community, we're not going to be successful, not only as a state, but as a nation. We are the #1 aerospace state per capita in the nation. And you think about places like California and Texas, that says a lot for Colorado, right? But we also are much more than that, right? We're a defense hub that people don't think about in Colorado Springs and Aurora, Colorado. We have some of the greatest learning institutions there are here in CU and School of Mines and others. What we need to do is to make sure we can keep this talent at home. What we're seeing in the industry is we're seeing more people graduate from higher ed and they're leaving our state. We have to keep our talent here because we want to continue to be the #1 state in the nation for aerospace. We want to continue to build on the defense industry here because Colorado is the best place to be. The challenges that you're going to have in day 1 of business are going to be the challenges you're going to have in year 20 of business. And the realization that people have to have is that business is hard work, but it's also fun because you do what you love doing. I love what I do. I love running this business. I love walking into office every day. I love engaging. I love the fact that we're supporting the defense and aerospace industry. I love it. And so for me, it's not work. And if I'm looking back, 20 years from now, I'd like to see a legacy that says, Danny Moore was a person who helped grow my family. I like for people to look at my company and look at that as a springboard to success. I like to see dozens of entrepreneurs flow out of DeNOVO Solutions and start their own businesses. That's what I would like to see from a legacy standpoint. I think it's remarkable what PBS 12 is doing, having that independent and ethical media to share and tell the stories of our community. Everything from political climate to business to cultural is really important, and what they're doing here is exceptional. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to share our story of business on PBS 12.